We're live. We see the little red block. That means it's section by section. So welcome back to Jana Morse is here. And with that, I would turn it over to you and head to the administrative budget and wherever else we end up. So thank you very much.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Jana Morse. I'm the Director of Administration for the Agency of Transportation. And I have with me today, there we go. I brought with me today Secretary Flynn, Maureen Parker, our Deputy Director of Administration, Brad McAvoy, Director of Facilities, and Todd Eaton, the Manager of Vermont Local Roads. So Todd and Brad will both be presenting their budgets, and I'll be going over the overview. So we have several appropriations within the Division of Administration, but let's talk about the people and who we are first. So we are a division of currently 136 positions that supports the entire agency, including the Department of Motor Vehicles. We interact with the public, we interact with our contracting community, we do a lot of work internally, and we work a lot with our municipalities as well. So our scope is broad, and our agency's critical functions are supported throughout all of the work that we do. So this depicts a snapshot behind me of our leadership team, who is responsible for the functional areas of occupational health and safety, emergency services, facilities, and hazmat, financial operations, budget and business support, communications and public outreach, continuous improvement, our advances in artificial intelligence, business intelligence and performance, civil rights and labor compliance, contract administration, audit and records management, learning and development, Vermont Local Roads, and our administrative hearings team. We also liaise quite regularly with the Agency of Digital Services, Human Resources, and the Attorney General's Office on our administrative matters. So this year, our administration division, for those that use the white book, this is white book section 4, and there's 1 page behind it. Our budget this year is 25.4 million, and our total budget that breaks down to about 24 million in transportation fund and 1.3 in federal funds. So overall, this is a decrease for our budget of $1.1 million, or 4% of our budget. The decrease is primarily attributed to a reduction in force from both the fiscal 26 expenditure reduction plan and the conversation that Secretary Flynn introduced earlier today with the additional 8 positions this year. Our budget also includes the Attorney General's Office salary and benefits for 5 staff attorneys who support the entire agency.
Representative Boyd?
Yeah, what did you say? Are they with the Attorney General's office,
So
or they are embedded in your?
It's 5 Attorney General, Assistant Attorney General positions that are they are embedded with our organization. So we fund the position, but they report to the Attorney General.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying which part.
Jana, you said got 136 positions. Do you have a ballpark idea of how many are open and how many are they all filled at this point?
They're not all filled. We have about 14 vacancies, some of which are under active recruitment.
That means there's some that's not under active recruitment?
There are some that are included in this year's reduction in force plan.
Thank you.
Yes. So our budget breakdown, just a little bit different view. We have our funding profile over my right shoulder and our spending profile over my left shoulder. So again, this is the $24.1 million in T fund and the 1.3 million in federal fund. And then our spending profile is primarily personal services. We have some operating costs as well, and then our grants. So I'll start with the grants. The $50,000 is a federal fund grant, but that goes to our National Summer Transportation Institute program that's managed by our Civil Rights and Labor Compliance team, bringing in young students from across the state and out of state into Vermont for several weeks of learning about transportation at both the middle school and high school level. And then the other portion of our budget, we're about 95% operational, and about 5% we have a little bit of discretion over how we spend our funds. So the operational includes those personal services, service level agreements with digital services, human resources, and anyone else that we might need to have an MOU or operating agreement with, like the Attorney General's office. We have mandatory certification trainings for some of our employees, so those are included. in the 95%. We have printing, postal services, phone services, and leased operations. We have respirator training. Those are some of the examples that are in our core budget. And the things that we have for that 5% discretionary, we do have some funds in here for non-mandatory training, for ad hoc fleet rentals, and contracts for services that we leverage sporadically. So it's not something that we have a consistent payment for every month. So we budgeted for 136 positions, and then we accommodated the reduction in force through $1.2 million in additional vacancy savings. And that for us is 8 positions, 5 of which are filled and 3 of which are vacant. So this just looks a little bit differently at our spending profile details in transportation fund and federal funds. So you can see how our breakdown of federal funds are allocated. Like some of our team can charge to projects. So you'll see that in personal services. Some of our operating expenditures like travel, training, things that are associated with they're called 504E funds. It's a federal bucket of funds that's dedicated explicitly for the training education of our employees to ensure that they can deliver the services required by the federal administrations. And then, as I mentioned before, that $50,000 grant is for the NSTI program, National Summer Transportation Institute.
Just a clarification on the notifications for the people that are going to be let go. Assuming that process plays out June 30th, it's not like they haven't been notified now, right? Or-
No, we're still working through the labor relations and collective bargaining agreement process, but it's anticipated that notifications will go out before June 30th.
They will. Yeah, I was just wondering at the time. So they
Yes.
could theoretically be gone before.
Before fiscal 27 starts. That's correct.
Working White? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Jana. Would you just repeat what you said about federal grant for training of employees? Where was that on here? And
So that's accommodated in our operating and some of our personal services. So we do have a $500,000 allocated in 504E funds. That's a specific category of federal dollars that is allowable for our employees to receive training and education to further their leadership, their technical skills in the space of transportation. So it's eligible for all modes. The entire agency is eligible to participate or utilize those funds for training. They're also, I added it into personal services as well. Some of this into personal services as well, because there are travel components that would be considered part of that personal services versus operating breakdown in the back end.
and is that completely federally funded or is there a
Yes.
state match as well?
It's 100% federal.
Representative Pouch and then Representative.
Yeah, thanks. And just so I understand, the total budget for this department is 24 million. And you're only able to really leverage federal funds for 1.3
Correct.
within that. Okay, yeah, so the rest of it's state funds.
Correct.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, you're on.
Does grant training, are they competitive? How do they get allocated? How do you decide who gets what training?
The $50,000 for
Yeah.
training, it's a one-time allocation to the agency from Federal Highway, so we apply for it. And then that is given specifically to the NSTI program, so we administer that program. And that grant pays for the university that we partner with. So there's no really competitive application process for it, other than every once in a while we go out for bid for who we would do the services with.
The
Training,
training?
yeah, we've been
Safety
partnered
training.
with Vermont. So the $50,000 is solely for those, it's the Summer Transportation Institute. So it's a week I might get this backwards. It's a period of time, either a week or 2 weeks for the high school program, and then a week or 2 weeks for the middle school program.
Okay.
And that's the only
That's-
program that
that's what
$50,000
$50,000
supports.
pays for.
Yes,
That's great.
yes.
Representative-
Currently, who don't be contracted?
Vermont State Colleges.
Vermont State Colleges.
Yes.
Thank you. The universities.
Oh, yes.
You're correct. Before you go,
I stand corrected. So that's all I have, but I'm happy to take any additional questions before turning it over to Todd. Yes, sir.
So one of the things we don't talk a lot about in here is that how we structure and compare to other states and other, obviously highways in every state and whatnot. If this is 25 approximately 25 million out of our 317 million T fund, so 8% of our money that we use. How does that compare administratively, you think, to other states or similar sized states, or do we look at it that way at all?
I haven't compared the budget. I've looked at some of the services that our department provides versus what other administrative services, like how do we look as an organization compared to others, not necessarily from a funding perspective, but are we working on similar things? Are we prioritizing similar things? And there's a group of peers that I meet with several times a year through our American Association of State and Highway Transportation Officials, has an agency administration managing committee, and we collaborate on issues that are relevant for all of us. And what we're finding is that many of us have a core set of functionality that we're all responsible for. And then almost all of us has one little tangent that might be a little bit different. I'll use, for example, I have safety and emergency services. That's not always in the what we would consider an administrative bucket. Facilities might not be in an administrative bucket. As many organizations look at that as the financial operations, the contracting operations. And then I say many, there's at least a handful that have a separation there. But then we look at others and they also have they have everything that our administrative department is responsible for and then some. So it really varies depending on, each state, but there is a group of core functionality. So I would say it wouldn't be fair to compare apples to apples financially because the services that we provide are so different. I hope that's helpful.
I'm curious how it might compare and how you might look at it, because there is some that would push back and argue that perhaps we're too top heavy and that every dollar that we spend here is not a dollar that's being leveraged in federal money or work on the ground. And it's hard for us to look at a big number like that without really understanding everything that you do and ask, what are the right questions to ask? That is that 25 and it's projected to be 26 and 26 and 26 for the next 3-4 years. Is that how can we dig into knowing whether that is or is not the right amount of money for the amount of work that happens? It's a tough question from an oversight perspective, and I'm not sure how to dig into that.
I would say that we are right sized for the services that we provide and that those projects and programs can't be delivered without my team. There's not going to be anybody there to pay the bills. There's not going to be anybody there to put out the RFPs, to draft those contracts, to monitor the contracts, to audit the contracts and the services that we provide without funding the team and so many other aspects of the work that they do. So those projects and the programs just won't be delivered without my team.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just one more quick question. So, Jana, you've been in this position for, sounds like a long time.
It's been about 4.5 years.
And so can you just speak to, when you first came in, like what was the size, how many total positions you had? And do you remember the total budget then? Just kind of curious for some historical
A great question.
comparison.
I'm not entirely sure. I know we did grow in positions. I don't know the exact number, but we did have a number of limited service positions that we received through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that were then terminated earlier this year. And since I have been with the agency, my position prior, I had gained a couple of positions, but I can only speak for the role I was in prior and what I had changed there. But I'd be happy to follow up with you.
Yeah, and maybe just like 5 years ago versus now, and
Sure.
that'd be super helpful.
Of course.
Secretary Flynn is going to jump in, and then you're going to be next.
Thank you very much, Joe, and Secretary, to your question, Representative White. I think one thing it's important to mention, when I came into this role, one of the things the management team looked into was the number of business offices within the Agency of Transportation, primarily V-Trains. And I believe there were like 7 business offices. The Highway Division had a business office, Rail had a business office, Maintenance had a business office, Project Delivery had a business office, and we consolidated that into one business office. Now, we didn't necessarily shed every other vacancy. We repurposed some people elsewhere, but we cross-trained the people that we had, that we kept, so that you knew how to do some of the work, the specialty work that Highway did, for example, if you came from the other business office. And I bring that up because I think it speaks to the questions, sort of the surrounding point to the questions that are being asked at this moment. There's always ways to perhaps look to become more efficient, but we did take a look at that in the beginning. Because it just didn't make sense to me that we had 6 or 7 silos that processed paperwork sort of independent of each other. So, I just, some of our team, to Jana's point, she's been the director for 4 years. Started doing this in 2017. So just for the committee to see.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I'll also add to the, sorry, Representative Weiser. I'll also add to the response when I send that to you, some of the changes that we've made operationally, so you can see that we gained positions, but these are the programs that were shifted as well.
Teresa, Representative,
Yes.
then Representative Pouch, and then Representative Key.
Yeah, thanks for this information. I assume the federal government, audits their programs and all that. And I'm guessing it mostly comes into your area, the auditing activities. So my question is, how much of that is happening? Have there been any changes over the last couple of years on, assuming we continue to do a good job and pass all those? And any recent changes in auditing programs or adjusting programs to meet, federal expectations or standards?
Sure. So we have a really great relationship with our federal partners, particularly Federal Highway. And we collaborate with them monthly at least on how is our program doing? Where are we headed with things? What could we do to do better? And so we've initiated several different continuous improvement projects over the years to understand project closures. Like for example, how can we shorten the project closure time? So as our projects are closing, it's freeing up those funds that might have not been spent to go back into our budget and be able to be allocated to additional projects or to new projects. As part of that, we also recently hired a new audit section chief, and she's been looking at all of our processes, our procedures, diving into some of our programs a little bit differently. And our audit chief it's not a gotcha program. This is how can we catch things and make sure that we are compliant and that we are ahead of any audit that might be coming our way. So maybe Maureen, if there's anything that you'd like to add on any initiatives that the audit chief is working on now, she reports directly to Maureen.
Parker, Deputy Director. There's several things we've been discussing, but right now she's really acclimating, getting familiar, networking with the AASHTO groups nationally to get best practices in place and just maintaining those federal audits. But a lot on the horizon.
So this may, Jana, dovetail into some of the stuff. Is there any application for AI in the things that you do? Have you looked? Is there any? A lot of these, because we're getting generally, in my experience, has been that the general AI isn't very helpful in specific applications. Anyway, that's my question. Have you got anywhere with that?
We have. So we just recently hired a new artificial intelligence and business intelligence program manager. She's got a really big title. She's the BIP, as we call it. Business intelligence and performance is the BIP manager. And so she's only been with us for less than 6 months. And in that time, some of the initiatives that she's working on she's working with leading our data governance program. We can't really do anything unless we understand what our data is, where it is, and how it's being managed, and then categorize that data. So we've made some strides in that area already, just forming the data governance committee, engaging in participation across the entire organization. And then one of the areas that she and I have piloted, I've been part of her pilot. I can't say she and I have piloted. It is her pilot that I've participated in, is understanding how we can build job books for future. So a lot of our positions have job specifications that are posted online that we can bring in language from, and then coupling that with an interview that may be recorded or completion of a worksheet by an employee. This is where I've participated in establishing a job book for my role. So were I not to be able to come to work tomorrow, somebody might know how to pick up the work that I'm doing, and who my key contacts are. What are my primary responsibilities? What is my job? And so we're using AI to build that job book by capturing and bringing in the various files and then using the language dialogue that we've recorded to be able to do something like that. And then there's a few other data applications, but I'm not the best person to explain those.
There is many. Thank you.
Representative Thor?
So if Representative White doesn't mind, if you send that information she's requesting to our committee assistant, then
Yes.
she can distribute it to the
Of
rest of the
course.
committee. Thank you. And then my last question is, did you say that public safety and emergency?
We have a safety and occupational health and safety and emergency services team
and
as
they're
part of, and they're
they're
embedded
part
within
of it?
the.
Is that unusual? Is that kind of
Occupational safety is very usual. The hazmat and emergency services might be a little bit different depending on the state, but it's about, what I've seen is it's about 50-50.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Todd from Vermont Local Roads. You need these.
Good morning. Thank you. For the record, my name is Todd Eaton with the branch manager for Vermont Local Roads. Thank you for the opportunity to share our budget overview with you. It's the arrow buttons, Gina. So largely, as far as fiscal year 27 is concerned, we've started over the last few years, we've started a few new programs. And so our focus for this next fiscal year is to focus primarily on our continuous improvement. And so I've divided that into three different areas as far as where we're going to looking to continue to improve. One is the enhancing our leadership capabilities, or the enhancing leadership capabilities of the municipality specifically. Over the last couple of years, because of some of the job market things, the volatility that's been present within that, there's been a lot of turnover with municipal road foremen and municipal road crew. And I've had a lot of requests, and I've even had the opportunity to individually mentor some of the newer road foremen. The reason being is because oftentimes, because of the competitive market, the municipality was only able to attract a younger road foreman. And so they didn't have leadership experience or management experience. So I've been able to come along with side of them and help them increase their understanding in that. 3 years ago, we started a leadership academy, which is a 10-session ongoing over the course of 6 months program where we focus specifically on all of those leadership capabilities, increasing that with a cohort of up to 20 municipalities. They have to apply for it. They have to get their select board support. They have to provide a resume. Basically, we structure it in a competitive manner to I guess weed out who's really serious about working on those skills. The final project for that is to do a presentation. One of the things as far as leadership capabilities, being able to do public speaking so that they can do presentations for both the committees within the municipality, the select board itself, so on and so forth. As far as work zone safety, we've started grants to both provide more assets to municipalities, especially the smaller ones. These smaller grants are focused on they're competitive grants that focus looking to help benefit most the smaller municipalities that don't have the financial capability to get a lot of the safety equipment that they're required to provide for their workers a safe environment while they're working in the road. So we have a grant for sign packages that provides 4 different municipalities with funding for a full sign package. And then there's also another grant alongside of that is a temporary traffic control lighting grant, provides up to $10,000 for temporary traffic lighting, like the temporary stoplights, which are proven, through all sorts of different studies to be far safer than using flaggers. And all of those drive to further training, to, drawing those municipalities into, to expanding their understanding and experience and capabilities as far as how to set things up safely to protect the municipal workers. And finally, to promote roadway rigidity. This year, we're bringing out another up to $10,000 grant to help municipalities with different pieces of equipment that will help make more stable roadways. And that also, again, drives municipalities to some of our training programs that would also help with that as well. So specifically, this is the breakdown of our budget. This, as you can see on the bottom of the slide, we're asking again for level funding. The program, myself, our program coordinator, Holly Hayden, and we also hire on a temporary position throughout the summer to provide some of those technical training services alongside myself and other contractors. And so that's the salary and benefits portion of that. The rest of it's personal services, professional services, excuse me, which is primarily contracting other trainers and other ways in which to bring information and training to the municipalities, and then the other smaller amounts as you see there. The breakdown between federal and state as it is. And with that, I'll take any questions if you have any.
Thank you. I have two questions. When you're talking about work zone safety and working with municipalities to apply for grants to get these lights, for example, that are better than flaggers, when a municipality is able to purchase one of these, do they then have it in their possession so they can use it for other road projects?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's that becomes theirs.
Okay. Because my understanding is that flagging is pretty costly as well as labor intensive. So
since I believe this is my 13th year with the Vermont Local Roads Program, I fit as its branch manager. Since I started as the technical training services professional or whatever, one of the things that I've tried to promote is just those lights, because municipalities, on average, it's between $5,000 and $7,000 to bring in flaggers with all of the different paraphernalia that they would have to provide for like a one daylight period project on the road. So the $10,000 grant, most of the lighting systems that I recommend to municipalities run somewhere around $60,000. And so obviously the cost benefit analysis there works out pretty quickly as far as the value. I suggest to municipalities that they partner with their neighbor, share them, because obviously many of our Vermont municipalities aren't going to need them constantly. So that just brings the cost, makes it more, and the grant is open to that so that one municipality can get the benefit of that, but they still can share the cost with a neighbor.
And does the grant, is it a 80/20 or is it a?
It's up to $10,000. And so depending on the lighting systems they go for is where it kind of ebbs and flows there. But.
Okay. Thank you. And then my one other question. So you're working a lot with municipalities. Are you doing anything with salt reduction and helping that? Is that your kind of purview, or does that fall under Bernie's or somebody else's?
Yeah, so winter maintenance training, we provide winter maintenance training. We provide what we call snow and ice training. And it's right on par with a lot of what you see in Connecticut or New Hampshire as far as the Green Snow Pro programs curriculum. And yes, we've been in conversation with ANR as far as I believe it's S218. So it's.
And are you familiar with the salt use program that's used in the Adirondacks in New York State?
I can't say that I am specifically.
Okay. And one other question, just when you're working with municipalities on salt use, how many are asking for your help with that? Like, how many municipalities are actually engaged in that?
It changes with I would say we run on average about 70% engagement through with municipalities with all of our training, and that includes winter maintenance. And so that changes depending on leadership changes, turnover, things like that. Sometimes you have leadership in a municipality that's much more open to partnering with Vermont Local Roads for training. Sometimes you have leadership that comes into a municipality that finds it to maybe it doesn't match their, cost benefit criteria, but.
Thank you.
Representative Bell?
Yeah, and thanks for this, and I'll, say, I mean, these programs, I can say, have helped Heinsberg a lot. I think we got one of the traffic safety, one of those. You just said about 70% of municipalities participate in the program, which is good. I got a couple questions. One, is there anything that requires municipalities to participate in any particular programs to get, to access their road funds or grants? Is that a step along the way that said, hey, if you want these grants, you have to do this program? That's just one. And I'm not saying you need to make it mandatory. I'm just asking that question. That would be one question anyways.
So there's only a couple training certifications that are required for certain pieces of their work for municipal road crews. So obviously that generates regulatory training. The grants that we provide they're competitive and they're based on essay questions. I try to make them more simplified because anticipating it would be a busy road foreman that is, doing dual operation to be filling these out, but they're based on 5 essay questions. 2 of those essay questions are an opportunity for them to articulate their internal training program and how they engage in training and how they plan on continuing to engage in training if they are to win that particular grant. So it's not mandatory, but it is part of the competitive nature of being able to receive the grant to show how they're pursuing training and building a training program internally.
And I'm curious on a couple of these grant programs, what percentage you're able to satisfy the grants versus what percentage, what's asked for and how much are we able to satisfy it? So like, is it, 25 municipalities ask for it, we're able to satisfy 10 of them, so almost 50% or something. That would be good to know. We don't need to know it now, but just to see. Again, I think these are really good programs. I think they really help our municipalities. The other one is, I was going to ask the question before you even brought it up, sharing resources. I know our town has, worked with neighboring towns on a couple of things, sharing things. And I wonder if that's just happening sort of town by town, or is there anything that your organization is doing to sort of encourage that? Because it seems like that would be, you buy a big piece of equipment, if it just sits idle for 2 or 3 months in the summertime or 2 months, then sort of renting it out to the other municipality, or even we've had people move back and forth a little bit, which has been helpful when we had the big storm damage. So just, asking that question.
Sure. Again, so I've been part of the program for, I want to say, going on 13 years. That has been a message that I've tried to convey since the beginning, because municipalities are always challenged with their financial constraints. In the last 5 years, that's only become more. So it's become more, it's been a message that's been retained and received much more readily in the last 5 years, just because of the necessity. Addison County, Heinsberg included, has been a good model for that. Even before some of the recent, joint equipment purchases that they've done, even with just trying to increase their buying power as far as materials in the area. They've done a lot of good work for that, and that is increasing. And I've used them as a model for a lot of that, trying to convey that message. So it's something that I work very closely with the regional planning commissions to try to increase that. But
Thank you.
Personnel, you know, maybe more.
Yeah, just a final question. I'm wondering, could you speak to whether or not this program is linked in any ways to the general roads permit and to the MS4 permits that
So
our
you,
towns
the municipal general roads permit. So Chad, who oversees that particular program, he part of his mandate is to provide updates and training throughout the year. He does that in direct correlation with me. That's actually, he just emailed me this morning to start setting up our spring training, calendar for the MRGP program. So very closely, we work with that. MS4 is a little bit different of an animal, for the larger municipalities. And so that's not a program that I work necessarily very closely with that program, but the concepts within MS4 is something that we convey as far as the expectations of that. But
do you see utility in having those two requirements in closer alignment to help towns get credit for some of the work they're doing? Maybe encourage them to incentivize them to do more of these best management practices. I'm thinking as we get into, salt is obviously becoming a bigger and bigger issues. So it seems like our towns are having to meet these requirements in somewhat of a siloed way. We're starting to talk about having permitting that is more cross-cutting.
Are you asking if MS4 and the MRGP should be joined together?
I'm just yeah, kind of the bottom up view. What do you what do you think? You're working with these folks, and I'm just kind of getting a sense as we policymakers try to figure out next steps, and we have to figure out how to do more with less. If there are any efficiencies that you see kind of coming around the bend. Apologies if I'm putting you on the spot because I realize I sort of am.
I'm happy to jump in for a
Sure.
second while you give a thought to what you might add from a program perspective. So Jana Morse, again, Agency Director of Administration. Todd's program has a particular focus, and we really like to partner across the rest of the state where it makes sense. One of the things that I've noticed from the 50,000 foot view is that every municipality is just a little bit different. Their needs are a little bit different. The demands on each of the municipalities just vary a little bit. So there may be opportunities and areas where it would make sense to try to streamline some of the offerings to municipalities or the best management practices. And there may be areas where it just doesn't. And I don't have the expertise in this particular avenue to weigh in on where it might make sense, but that's kind of when you asked your question, that was the first thing that came to mind. Is I'm not sure that it's a one size fits all, and that there might be something really varying. But Todd, I'll turn it back to you if you have anything else you'd like to.
That's exactly along the lines that I was thinking as far as the difference between the regulations for the MS4 and the MRGP. I think they are suited well as far as where they're targeted right now. The MRGP, from my perspective, and I'm not sure what Chad would say, I would assume he'd say something similar. I think it's doing very well, especially in showing the value. One of the value that all of these best management practices provide, not only for water quality, but for what we call roadway rigidity, and just making them last longer to all of the different wear and tear that they experience.
Just a comment. Just a comment.
Frank has his privileges.
I think as a former municipal employee, VLCT plays a big hand in this as well, reaching out to the local roads program. I know that our road foreman has access to the Road Scholar program. So I think VLCT is a great asset for any community that's looking to even start looking at that. Reach out to VLCT and they can put you in touch.
Just one other question, and I may be wrong, but I know in our town, they hire new people and they gotta get the license. Is that something you guys help with too, or not?
So this isn't leadership specific, but in the last 3 years, we started another program that we call the New Employee Onboarding Program, which provides virtual resources to provide all of the awareness training for safety to do that work, and then two certifications that they would be required to be, yes,
Move along in that.
Yes.
Because I think.
as quickly as possible to get them up to
So you
speed.
have that program for any municipality that says, hey, we've got a new employee needs a,
Yes.
can we sign it up and?
As per state legislation, for all of our services to the municipalities are at no cost.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome, Brad.
Secretary Flynn. was-
Oh, I'm sorry.
If I may just to,
It's like your problem this morning behind me.
No, I'm sorry. To your question about, are there things that in a common sense towns could do? I think one of the realities is that's what we see in Vermont about our desire for independence as far as county government or not having county government, but there's a couple of things when we met with the Senate before Christmas, they had a few town officials on the line. And I don't want to embarrass any particular town, but there was one town official who opined that it would be nice if they could take advantage of state pricing on things. If there's anyone in the room who's not aware, your towns can buy through the BGS contract price that we buy trucks, that we buy salt, that we buy grader blades, that we buy tires. And this is, this was a sharp person. I mean, it's just, there's 50,000 things people need to know. But I wanted to just make you aware of that if there was any question that your district. That's not going to necessarily solve the big question. I think we would urge every town to do everything they can to work with a neighbor for especially the big equipment. And I know that having come from the volunteer fire service as a volunteer, that's a conversation that a lot of communities have as well. Fire trucks are an awful big investment, especially for small communities. So absolutely, I think we certainly would support the reasoning behind that. I don't think it really changes the way Todd or anyone delivers the services that we provide, but it makes a lot of sense. And we do backstop a lot of towns as well. 4 or 5 years ago, Charlotte lost everything in a fire 10 days before Christmas. We gave them 3 trucks to use for the entire winter. We just left them to be trans trucks and they used them for the whole winter. When Lowell woke up and saw their building burning last week, we reached out. They had a neighboring town that supported them. We are in a bit of a spot on equipment, but we still made a gesture that if there's something you need, let us know and we try to figure it out. That's not the long-term answer to the smart question that you asked about municipal cooperation, but we try to partner everywhere we can as well in these sort of extraordinary circumstances. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome, Brad.
Good morning, everyone. Brad McAvoy, AOT Facilities Manager. I'll try to be brief so we can have a little time for questions, keep people on time. So our program priorities, we do have a building portfolio, about 430 buildings that we maintain, from anything from a old storage shed to, the new center garage project, which is going to be built in a future date. But our priorities are to maintain them in a good state of repair, support sustainable design, construction, and well-maintained infrastructure, and use life cycle cost analysis to produce informed budget decisions. We're utilizing getting all of our data in the VAMA system to try to be predictive on our budgeting, looking at replacement cycles for heating systems, roof, those types of things. This year's budget, we will be, get ahead of the slide here. We're looking for money to replace the Barton salt shed. That's going to be about $600,000. That structure's 50 years old. As you can see, got the old Quonset hut. I believe this is the last one in the state that we're going to be replacing with a new structure. That one is planned for replacement. And we also have $1,050,000 in there for statewide maintenance. That would include new heating systems, new roofs, maybe some LED lighting upgrades in some of the garages, some of the bigger projects. And that also includes any aviation buildings too. Some of those funds are directed to aviation. Those are the only couple slides I had. happy to answer any questions on where that money might be spent, anything that we've been working on.
Just,
Representative McCoy?
you mentioned aviation, are those buildings included in the 400?
They are,
They are,
yes.
thank you. I'm still waiting on the enlargement of the Rutland Airport.
Yeah, I think there's 10 airports, there's about 80 buildings that fall under airports.
Representative White?
Could you just repeat how many buildings you are?
430.
430. And you're gonna maintain them with a budget of 1.7 million?
That is that pot is for, we also get an appropriation out of Bernie Patno's maintenance budget for smaller repairs like the no heat calls, the plumbing repairs. I believe Ernie's budget is 1.5 million this year for, it's called major maintenance, which we also oversee for the facilities program.
Thank you. Sounds like.
That captures a lot of the smaller,
Strict budget.
yeah.
Pretty
tight.
Yeah.
Right. Well, how many people work in your group?
I have a field manager with 2 staff under him that cover the whole state, as well as a maintenance mechanic that helps on some smaller projects. So really working on buildings itself for.
Representative Pat?
Just sort of curious, the Barton salt shed, and there's a picture of it. Doesn't look that bad. I'm not saying it isn't, but you know, our salt shed in Heinsberg was replaced and it's not galvanized, it's got a like
If I were to do some close-ups, we had some other photos too, but a lot of the concrete is cracking. A lot of the joint connections where the steel meets the concrete have all kind of rusted out, so it's time.
Representative Keith?
What's the new building gonna be? What's that made of? What's that? Is it wood or is it metal or
The new such garage building?
the salt shed?
Oh, the new salt shed, sorry. It'll be concrete, it'll be wood frame, but the new walls on the concrete, you can see the Barton shed, the walls are pretty tall. The new concrete walls on our new design sheds are 14 feet high with wood, 10 feet of wood on top of that, and then a wood truss. Smart side, synthetic siding, we can probably get 75 to 100 years out of the new ones, so just staining them basically.
But is there electrical and is there plumbing? Is there anything like that in it? No?
We do minimal electrical, just some LED lights inside to light the inside of the shed and one of the overhead door.
And there was competitive bidding on that?
There will be for this project. It'll go out for a competitive bid through
Do you think
BGS.
it'll come in less than $194 a square foot?
We just completed in the last 3 years, 4 salt sheds about this size. They all came in around 6 to 625. The concrete alone is a big chunk of it. It's pretty beefy, but it's built to last. We get double the life out of these programs, so.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Thank you, Brad, thank you for your whole team, Jenna, and we are adjourned for this